Come on, Rick.
All right.
Mojo Monday, my friend. Monday morning will never be the same without that Marvin Gaye song. We have really put it in play.
Yes, we have. It's embedded in a permanent part of our experience. So here
I
we
love it.
are.
Well, here we are. We are right into our series on Win with People. And we're excited about this series, aren't we? I mean, reality is we're a people business, and our interactions with people create the degree of richness in our life, right? And just winning with people is it's a strategy. It's a being purposeful about how you communicate in the world. What would you say?
I mean, it's about having a big, worthy experience, man. I mean, one thing's for sure, time is, finite and you don't know what we have. So why not make the most of every experience or moment? And if the people puzzle is out of whack, man, it's hard to have a really valid experience while walking this earth. I mean, that's the real meat and potatoes of having a life worth living.
Absolutely. And I read this little book years ago, and I think you have as well, Win How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie, which is an incredible book. And we're kind of starting off with some of the principles out of this book, and I know we're going to move into some other books, so it's not specifically about this book, yet this is a timeless classic that I think everybody should read. No?
There's no doubt about it. I mean, nailed it early. One of the early adopters of the power of relationships and the power of positivity. And man, he's impacted. I bet there's probably 50,000 books that coattail the content of his first step into
Yeah.
that domain.
And it on the cover, it says over 70 years in print. And I probably bought this 20 years ago, so I'm thinking it's 90 now, but whatever. Anyway, let's dive in. So winning with people, I'd like to just create a framework around winning with people is causing people to move closer to you emotionally. And by doing that, it creates influence with people, and it creates that positive energy that you can really build upon, right? And ultimately, influence has everything to do with interactions with people, but it helps you in business and it riches your life, more importantly, right? So let's start off with our first talking point this week, Rick, which is basically you need to make other people feel important.
Mm-hmm.
And making people feel important is such a powerful concept, because what it is you're actually honoring that person you're having interaction with. You're giving them the respect that they deserve, and they want to walk away from those conversations and those interactions feeling honored, feeling respected. And by doing that, I want to hang out with you more. I want to have more conversations with you because I feel good about myself inside of our relationship. I feel good about myself uh, every time I have a conversation with Rick, because he honors me. He respects who I am, and I feel important inside those conversations. Where would you take this? I mean, making other people feel important sounds so simple, but it's really not that simple, right?
No, and you kind of have to think through, is it a gift? I mean, or is it innate, or is it a learned behavior to be that person? And I would speculate, Brett, that we all have someone in our lives that operates at that level, that they just bring an element or the capacity to add positivity to every conversation. And you almost know in advance of picking up the phone or running into them that this is how this is going to go.
Yeah.
And I have three people that popped into my head right now that fill that space in my heart and mind, that I know when I see them, the first thing they're going to do is compliment and rave about something, or maybe they're paying attention to something on Facebook or somewhere, in the news about something that relates to me. And the ability to make someone feel special is magical. And
Yeah.
so it's like, so first step, I think, is to kind of take a deep breath and honor the people that live in that space for you, and then kind of connect the dots between how you emulate or could emulate at a level up with, if you will, with how you might be able to exhibit more of it. If you recognize that as that's a superpower.
Yeah. And I think the kryptonite in your superpower analogy here is some people make people feel less than. And when they do that, in my analogy of moving closer emotionally, the person that feels less than actually moves further away emotionally. they don't want to have interaction with you as much, right? What would you say?
Well, there's two ways to look at it. Are you that person, or is that person coming into your life? And, hurting people hurt is a common, way that I sort of build a force field around myself from that energy, and recognize that for someone to make someone else feel less than, they're probably hurting and suffering on some level. And
Yeah.
that's just the reflective energy of what they're feeling on the inside. Then it's not truly me. And I try not to personalize it. But the flip side of that coin, Brett, is that if you're exhibiting that energy, they may not have that level of capacity to separate you from the experience or the conversation. And in that regard, it's exactly what you spoke to. Like, as soon as that venom or poison is spewed, if they assign that to you, the person, and not you, the experience, it may be damaging to the relationship and potentially forever.
Yeah. Yeah. So our first point today is make people feel important. Our second point today is never tell somebody they're wrong.
Hmm.
You've got, and this is tough, but you've got to show respect for other people's opinions. They're going to shut down. They're going to get defensive if you tell somebody they're wrong. And ultimately, like I said, they're going to move away emotionally. And really you're starting a conversation, or you're starting an interaction with people with just massive negative energy. If I say you're wrong, and Rick,
Hmm.
you could walk into a conversation with me and tell me the sky is purple, and everything in my head goes, he's crazy. Rick, you're wrong. It's not purple, it's blue. But
Hmm.
the energy inside of that interaction is really kind of off-putting. It's negative. Where I could say, interesting, Rick, tell me how you came to that conclusion that the sky is purple, because from my where I'm sitting, it looks pretty blue today.
Yeah.
And instead of saying you're wrong, I just say, help me understand why you see that. Help me understand. I ask questions, right?
That's exactly right. And the hurdle in that you have to then overcome, if you make someone wrong, they in theory and in typical fashion will immediately start to conjure reasons why they're right in their own head, and they go inside their head and heart
Yeah.
to try not to be wrong. And then they, instead of investing in your opinion and trying to understand your state or your position, they tend to create defensive posturing, and they quit listening. And as soon as people quit listening, they quit relating. And when you quit relating, the relationship suffers.
What do they call that? Stonewalling, I think.
Yeah. And it's
But
just,
here's the crazy part of this is our society today is a little polarized, right? And there's a lot of polarization around religion and politics and social culture things, and people get very convicted around what side of the fence they sit on. And they're not wrong. Those convictions make up who we are as people sometimes. But the context of this dialogue is winning with people, right? So instead of telling you that your perspective on the other side of the fence or your differing view is wrong, I'm going to respect your opinion, try to understand where you're coming from.
yeah, I mean, I taught my kids this early on, and I think it resonates today as young adults. And they would, like typical brotherly fashion, they would fall prey to arguments and disagreements. And what I witnessed early on is that if one child were, dominated the other, and somehow won in a moment, the relationship suffered. And my question to them was always, sometimes right is wrong, and did you really win? Because if the relationship suffers, being right is pretty hollow and pretty empty. And
Yeah.
other than just knowing you were right, I just, unless there's truly an outcome that's aligned with what you want it to be, there's no point in being right if it harms a relationship. And I think that's a really cool foundational place to start. Um, and I think it comes down to recognizing what the end is. So whether it's a business or personal relationship, how do you want this to ultimately land? And if your behavior takes you anywhere other than that ultimate landing place, you're probably wrong, not in the argumentative sense,
Are
but
you
in the
telling me I'm
purpose
wrong?
sense. I'm saying you're right because you put others first, and you ask questions. And that goes back to, do you want to control or dominate a conversation? And the answer is, it's far better to control a conversation than to dominate. And by controlling, you simply ask better questions
Yeah.
so that someone self discovers a truth. Because if someone else, if I say, man, the sky is purple, Brett, But has it ever been blue? And at some point in the conversation, I ask enough questions, you go, I could see where you'd see blue. That's enabling and that's connecting. And by virtue of you saying it, I can then say, well, Brett, that's a brilliant, observation that you can see it both ways. I'm impressed. Is that an enabling outcome or is that disabling?
Yeah, I understand. And
100%
I don't
enabling.
think it, well, I want to make sure people understand we're not saying change your convictions. Your convictions make us up with who we are, right? We're saying this is about how to work and create influence and win with people. And it's not easy, but this is how you win with people, right? Is you find a way to find common ground. I don't know about you, but I can remember quite a few, maybe a lot of conversations over my life where we were trying to go to the same place, but fell apart in the path to get there.
Right.
And it's because somebody took a stand somewhere in the path and said, no, wrong, instead of, hey, question, perspective, let's find our way towards the same outcome that we were probably both going anyway, right?
Yeah. Well, and every now and then, I think it's absolutely appropriate to your point about convictions to agree to disagree and still honor their opinion without demising your sense of ego attachment to what you believe right. And again, it comes back to, does the end game, is this behavioral moment and this experience serving the best and highest end game? And that takes just a high level thinker and a high
There you
level
go.
moment of self-awareness.
And I think it's an emotional intelligence thing. I think
100%.
being able to pull this off around making people feel important and never saying somebody's wrong, and some of these other things around winning with people really speaks to your growth and how you've grown your emotional intelligence over time, right? So the first
100%.
one was making people feel important. Our second talking point today is never tell somebody they're wrong. Our third one is it's a simple one, but when you're engaging people, it's a best practice to kind of start with some questions that you know they're going to say yes to.
Mm.
And just starting off with that simple agreement and the head nod and the yes questions. Obviously, I think we can probably talk about some sales techniques here, but just simply big picture first. The word yes creates energy and creates momentum for a conversation to come. And it's just a simple or easy way to or strategy to win with people. What would you say?
I would agree. I mean, I think it's brilliant for someone to feel honored. First, they have to be heard. And then you want to feed back positive energy around what you heard. Not necessarily, again, if you have if you don't agree just to agree, but you can certainly still frame energy around, you know what, I appreciate how you'd see it that way. That's awesome. And thank you for sharing. And thank you for being authentic and transparent to your understanding. And then you ask enough positive questions, you bring enough energy that they put their guard down, and then you can pose next level questions to maybe help them self-discover where the gray area lies, or how maybe there's a way that you can both combine your energy so that you have a more powerful relationship and outcome.
Yes. It's super easy,
I
sir.
agree with you,
All
Brett.
this is easier said than done, but it's good practice, right?
It is.
And
And
then
practice makes
our
perfect.
fourth thing we wanted to talk about today is just the simple fact to let the other person do most of the talking. I knew when I early on in my business career, people always said, if you're in an interview strategy, if you want to win an interview or win with people inside of an interview, be the person that talks the least. And whoever talks the most feels the best about that experience. And how do you do that? I think it's just simply adopting a question culture inside of your life. If you genuinely ask people questions, your question creates a context for them to do more talking because they're answering your questions. But you got to come from a place of being genuine and seriously interested in getting to know who they are while honoring them and respecting them and all that stuff. But just simply, if Rick, you do more talking, you feel better about this Mojo Monday than I do. Or if I do more talking, I'm walking away feeling better about it than you are. So hopefully I'm going to throw the ball to you. And what do you think about that?
I don't know, Brett. What do you think about that? So if you're going to level this up, Brett, how might you do it?
Yeah, right. We can go back and forth forever.
I mean, but at the end
Um,
of the day, you just want to feel like you contributed. I mean, I think that's a human need for most of us to feel like we added value, we contributed. And the misnomer is that the contribution is in more statements of fact from us versus curiosity and trying to extract truth from the person we're with. And if as you improve and hone your skill at extracting truth, it just brings you closer to a positive relationship. And that's, again, goes back to, the EQ piece of it, and being able to really live in the space that you don't have to be the source of all answers, and you're much more empowered when they're the source of the answer and you fed them the right question to lead them there.
there you go. There you go. So let's challenge some people this week, Rick. I think that there's some relationships or some people inside of our life, whether business or personal, you choose, right? But go engage that person or people inside of your world, and engage them with this context around. Start it off with some questions that they're going to answer yes to. Really honor them and make them feel important inside of the conversation. Ask some great questions so they they spend enough time speaking so they feel good about the experience. And then at the end of the day, whatever you do, don't tell them they're wrong inside of the conversation, and find perspective and common ground.
100%. I mean, I think if you ask open-ended questions and you leave room for self-discovery, and you stop trying to fill the void if there's a stall in time or the response isn't immediate. In my humble opinion is that when you ask a really good question and the response doesn't come immediately and it's less than just a yes, no, or maybe, you've probably stumbled onto something that means something. And so, premeditate what meaning something means in any given moment or with that key person, and test your ability to ask really good questions and stop talking long enough to hear their truth and then confirm their truth, and then see where that next level question might take you. And I'd also say maybe start with people, if this is kind of strange or unique in terms of a strategy, try it on people that, practice, I should say, don't try it on, practice with people where there's less emotional risk, and see where that
Good
takes
advice.
you, and then work your way into the inner circle of the people that maybe there's a damaged relationship somewhere out there in your history that simply by acknowledging you were part of that experience and part of that damage, and you'd love to mend it, and ask them what that might take. Maybe that's a simple way to open up a door to an opportunity to resurrect a relationship. And man, that would be a powerful outcome this week, is just to get one step closer to a relationship that matters, that maybe slipped away at some point.
I love it, Rick. Mojo Monday, my friend.
That's it. Be good, guys. Mojo Monday. Connect
Have a
with
good
people
week.
because people matter. You matter. We love you.